Hello students, welcome to the MOOC session of e-learning. Today we will be discussing on the industrial relations policies of the government. We are considering here Indian economy only. Now why the industrial relation is so important? Industrial relation is important to increase the efficiency, increase the productivity and also the optimum use of the resources over the period of any industrial unit. So industrial development is also very much dependent on the industrial relations. Now if there is any industrial dispute or any industrial unrest in the industrial unit, it will hamper the peace and tranquility of that sector. And in that case, the policies related to the industrial dispute settlement process is very much important. Now, if we consider the need for industrial harmony, we have to point out that healthy cordial relationship between the employer and the employees is very much important. If there is peace and tranquility prevail in the industrial sector, it will increase the efficiency of the laborers as well as the productivity of the laborers and the efficiency of the management system also. So, the effective peacemaking arrangement for the settlement of industrial dispute is very much important. Here we will discuss about the different policies government time to time has taken and also the voluntary arrangements that should be followed to settle the industrial disputes over a whole period of time, considering the country like India. Now there are three objectives we can specify here. The first one is what are the need to find out different industrial policies related to the settlement of industrial dispute. And the second one is what are the traditional mechanisms that the industrial unit can follow so that there is the settlement of industrial dispute. And the third one is the preventive measures or the different legal machineries or mechanisms that the industrial unit should follow to settle the industrial disputes. Now, first of all, if we consider the necessities related to the industrial dispute settlement, we will find that the first point, that is to protect the rights and the interests of the workers, industrial dispute settlement is very much needed. And if there is apt labor law, the labor law which is applied to the labor market, if this is just effective, then the increase in employment is also necessary. The second point, we can say that the protection of the interest and the protection of the rights for the employers are also needed, because it cannot happen that if there is burden of labor law imposed on the employers, then their efficiency regarding the management will be diminishing and it will hamper the industrial production as a whole. So, we can sum up that to maintain industrial peace and harmony, the right of the industrial units, also the interests of the employers and the employees, all of them should be protected over the period, applying definite industrial dispute settlement mechanism. Now, what are the traditional mechanism system one can apply to the industrial dispute settlement system. The first one is the conciliation process and the second one is arbitration. The arbitration can be of two types. The first one is traditional arbitration, which is called voluntary arbitration, and the second one is the compulsory arbitration. Now we can discuss it one by one. Conciliation process is the process of applying a third party which will help to settle the gap between the workers and the employers as a whole, and it will arrive to an amicable settlement. Now, if we consider the conciliation process, there is an employment of conciliation officer. Conciliation officer is taken as flying squad ambulance because it deals with the emergency situation when there is unrest between the laborers related to the relationship with the employers or the management system or the industrial unit as a whole. There are some arguments against the conciliation process. First of all, this conciliation process is time consuming. The conciliation process is taking higher cost so that it affects the workers of the production process. And if this conciliation process is related to the essential public service, then it will hamper the masses activity as well as it will hamper the economy's activity as a whole. Successful conciliation process requires strong trade union which will bargain with the employers. But in India, the traditional trade union system is not very strong and they do not have strong opinion system and they cannot confidently argue with the employers. If we consider the argument in favor of conciliation process, there are some positive points also. First of all, the sustainable peace is possible through this conciliation process. Secondly, the peace regarding the relationship between the employers and the employees, that can be possible automatically if the conciliation process runs seamlessly with the conciliation officer. And there is a possibility of growth of healthy trade union system which will basically help the whole industrial unit to do better, to do efficiently, optimally in the future course of action. If conciliation process fails, then we have to sort into the voluntary arbitration or compulsory arbitration. Voluntary arbitration is the employment of a third party by the disputants themselves. When the conciliation process fails, then they opt for the third party which will help them to narrow the gap between their difference of opinions, and also it will settle to a mutual settlement process. But there is some reasons for failure of the voluntary arbitration also. First of all, there is no legal provision of alternative measure of the voluntary arbitration process. Secondly, the easy availability of adjudication actually prevents the employers and the employees to employ this type of third party through the voluntary arbitration process. And the third one is absence of simplified process of voluntary arbitration. There is absence of this simple process. Since the process is very complex, they are not actually affected with the dispute settlement of these different industrial units through this voluntary arbitration process. There are high cost of arbitration related to the workers' activity also. So, this voluntary arbitration sometimes fail to operate efficiently. And if this voluntary arbitration fails, then they came to the government for any help. In that case, government actually employs a third party with or without consent of the disputant party, and this type of arbitration is called compulsory arbitration. This compulsory arbitration is possible when the two parties are actually agreed to settle the dispute. But there are some points which will highlight that the compulsory arbitration may fail also. What are those points? First of all, again it prevents the growth of healthy trade union. It actually hampers the activity of the trade union, and if there is generation of trade union, the trade union leaders are sometime they are actually trying to find their own way. They take some benefit about this type of settlement process so that they can have self-interest generated any idea so that it will help them to secure their position in the industry. It will not benefit all the workers at a time. So there is unjust labor law which are applied by the trade union leaders sometimes. This is one of the disadvantage of applying this compulsory arbitration here. There is another point that this type of compulsory arbitration is sometimes referred as forced peace application because it depends on the trade union leader's activity. If it is satisfied only by the trade union leader's own interest, then it will be a forced one. It will not the one type of interest will be hampered and other type of interests are benefited. This cannot be done through the settlement process of any kind. So the compulsory arbitration is sometimes taken as more disadvantageous compared to the voluntary arbitration or the conciliation process. Now we consider the third objective of our study, which is prevention and legal machineries for the settlement of industrial disputes all over the India considering any industrial unit. What are the preventive measures? The preventive measures can be workers' participation in the management, standing orders, the joint management council, the collection of bargaining, and also the code of disciplines. And what are the legal machineries that should be applied considering the settlement of industrial disputes? The legal machineries which we have already discussed are the conciliation process, the arbitration process, and the adjudication process. Now, what is the Works Committee? Works Committee is one of the preventive measures that can be followed to settle the industrial disputes. Works committee consists of representatives from the employers and the employee group, and if the industrial unit consists of 100 or more workers, then this group can act as a forum. It will actually give some benefited measurements so that it do not hamper the activity of the workers as well as the employers, and there will be amicable settlement of the industrial disputes over a long period of time. It will actually help to increase the productivity, efficiency, and the managerial activity of the overall industrial unit. And if we consider the data related to Works Committee, we will find that initially in 1950 we have 1196 units of Works Committee. In 1997 it will 2697, but after that it fell. The number of works committee that declined thoroughly, and in 1991 it became 582, and after that it declined thoroughly. So there is declining number of works committee, and it actually implies that the activity of the work committee was not very much effective in the Indian industrial system. First of all, employers lack desire to consult with the workers. They are not very much interested to take decision when they are considering that workers are with them or workers are not with them. When workers are against them, they are not at all interested to discuss the fact with the workers. The second one is there is a confusion regarding the actual role that should be played by the works committee. And the third one is this works committee is not used as negotiating body, rather it is used as the gap which exists in the system. If the gap can be bridged by the negotiation with the workers and the employers, it is not doing its efficient activity, it is not acting as an efficient manner to control the system, so that there should be resolve of the industrial dispute over the period, and it will help in industrial development. Now there is traditional mechanisms. We can say that one is conciliation machinery, we have already discussed, but if we consider it as legal machinery, we can say that there are two parts. The first one is conciliation officer and the second one is conciliation board. What is conciliation officer's activity? Conciliation officer actually mediates between the two disputants. If he fails or she fails, then the board will be activated here. The conciliation board comes into the system and they actually plays the role of civil court, and they have the power to take administered oath and to deliver summon. Now, there are some definite disadvantage to employ this conciliation machinery. The first one is inefficiency among the conciliation officer, and the second one is educational background of these officers are not very high. They are actually not efficiently educated to deal with different types of disputes throughout the period which are happening in the industrial units. And the third one is if there is any type of disputant, any type of disputes in the industrial unit, the type of the dispute, the attitude of the workers and the employers are not known by this conciliation officer as well as by the conciliation board as well. One kind of legal machinery we here discuss is the adjudication. We have already discussed the arbitration process. Arbitration process, if it is modified to some extent, we can have adjudication. What is adjudication? If we consider the compulsory arbitration process, here we see that the government actually employs the arbitrator. The government employed arbitrator is called adjudicator, and that adjudicator's duty is to intervene throughout the period the disputant activities and the disputes between the workers and the management system. And there are three types of categories or the types of adjudicator we can say. The first one is labor court, the second one is industrial tribunals, and the third one is national tribunals. What is labor court? The labor court deals with the legality of different activities that have been taken by the employers with respect to the workers' situation. It can be related to discharge and dismissals of the worker. It can be related to the withdrawal of statutory provident fund basic or the pension fund basics, etc. The legality of the leave rule also. If we consider the industrial tribunals adjudicates mainly on wage-related facts and also the different bonus and allowances, the profit and bonus situations, and different types of industrial disputes mainly related to the workers' activity. If the industrial tribunals settle some type of disputant between the workers and the employers, then it will do the best if we consider the adjudication processes over the period. There is another category which is called national tribunals. From the name, we see that it is the process which is of national interest. When the industrial disputes are related to the national interest so that it can hamper the industrial units of other states also, then the government has to employ this national tribunal system. It will actually take into account different types of industrial disputes which are taking place in the industrial unit, and they actually search for amicable settlement over the period so that it will restore the peace and harmony of not only this industrial unit but other industrial unit across the state of the country like India. The adjudication process is not very much satisfactory over the period. Why? Because settlement time of this adjudication process is a lengthier process. If we consider the total number of adjudication process, it actually takes to settle almost more than 1 year, and 1/4 of the total settlement takes the time of 6 to 12 months. The second point is no democratic process is here followed to the settlement of this industrial dispute. So, the adjudication process is to some extent undemocratic, and it actually creeps the mistrust and frustration among the employers and the workers. The third one is proclivity towards litigation is very high, and the fourth one is unnecessary delay of the implementation of these adjudicators' decision makes the workers to be more unrest and to be more resorted to the industrial disputes. Now, if we consider different voluntary arrangements, there are the Code of Discipline, Industrial Truce Resolution, the workers' participant in the working committee and the management system, and the workers' education. Now, what are the Code of Discipline? There are some rules that can be accepted by the private sector with the public sector, and with the public sector there are companies and the corporations. Not only them, they are also related with other ministry of the government except the Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Railway, the ports and docks, and the SBI and RBI. The other institutes and the other corporations are accepting the Code of Discipline. What are the Code of Discipline? They are strikes and lockouts should not be implemented without notice. The second one is there should not be any stoppage of work. The third one is no reason to deliberately hamper or deliberately destroy the plant's machinery. And the fourth one is existing machinery should be used when there is dispute regarding the settlement of any kind of activity between the workers and the employers. If we consider the Industrial Truce Resolution, it is followed from 1952, and this Industrial Truce Relation actually deals with the different types of industrial disputes and the machineries related to the settlement of the dispute. The merging of this Industrial Truce Resolution with the Works Committee and with the Code of Discipline actually helps all the workers and all the employers to go through the process of peace and harmony, which will restore the cordial relationship between the employers and the employees over the period. And this merging of the industrial truce relation with the Code of Discipline basically arises one of the institution which is called the Voluntary Committee of the Central Implementation Process. If it efficiently works out, then there will be restoration of industrial peace, industrial harmony, and there will be increase in the efficiency of the workers as well as the efficiency of the management system. Finally, one voluntary arrangement we can discuss about the workers' participation in the management and also the workers' education. Worker can participate in the management system if they are aptly trained, and the training can be given by the Industrial Institute of Workers' Education, and it started from 1970. The financial assistance as well as the different types of activities carried out by the worker, all of them are assisted by the Central Board of Workers' Education. If we consider these two observations, if we consider these two organizations also, one is 11WE and the other is CBWE, we will find that these two organizations actually help in participating the workers in the management system. They will get some importance overall the period, and they will be helpful with the employers. They will be benefited from the employment system also, and there will be a cordial peaceful relationship between the employers and the employees, so that there will be industrial development over the period is possible. There is one point which we must here highlight is the establishment of grievance redressal cell. If there is 20 or more workers engaged in any industrial unit, there should be a grievance redressal cell, and that will play the role of the advisory board to the workers if there is any type of faulty relationship with the workers and the employers happen, and if the workers are not satisfied with the advisors that are given, or with the advisor that is given by the grievance redressal cell, then they can go to the worker, they can go to the employer also, and they can say about the revision of the suggestion or advision that are given by the grievance redressal cells members. And if it is apt that the decisions are unjust, then the employer can dispose of all the suggestions or all the activities that are taken by the grievance redressal cell within 1 month. Employers can dispose of all the suggestions also. So it can happen that with the activity of the grievance redressal cell, the relationship between the employees and the employers can be optimized. But here is one point we must mention, that due to lack of uniformity, the law of this labor, the law related to the industrial policies and the law related to the employers also, they are not uniform across the state. They are not effective across the state at the same level. So the confusion and the mistrust, the frustration, it continue over the period about the industrial dispute settlement processes.